got a couple of audits in the NDIS space. That one's complete, one's nearing completion. No real issues identified there. There has been a couple of suggested improvements that the community care team is currently working through. And in the CHSP space, we have a couple of audits coming up in that program as well. One is towards the end of this month, and another one's early April, as well. The numbers are progressing okay. We have had some conversations backwards and forwards with the government department around the CHSP and our costs versus the outputs. We believe that we're progressing through that positively and are providing the additional information they need to support our expenditure. So there is some questions being asked, but we're confident that we've done the work and we've got the evidence there to suggest to prove it, and are progressing that through to completion as well. The home care packages, we have received a large amount of the funding for that program already, and now are delivering that works. The Home Assist Secure, similar to what has been the story for the year-to-date and last year, not a lot of take up in the community, and while that grant program was increased at the start of this financial year, we haven't seen the take up largely to see that expenditure getting fully expended. So we will have some under expenditure there we're expecting in that program. NDIS, similar to what it's been, is progressing along quite well. Thanks, Matt.
Councillors, questions, please. Councillor Rogers. Yes, Councillor.
How exactly will the revised accounting structure simplify costings to funding streams?
Through Chair, that's for the CHSP program. Councillor, you're referring to? What we're doing there is, at the moment, we've got a structure of costings and the way we cost to those programs, and then when it comes to reporting time, there's a very manual process then to pull those numbers out and then work out what percentage goes where in the CHSP program. So we revised the ledger structure that the staff are costing their time and materials and whatnot to, so that it links directly to what the CHSP the 9 programs are. So it'll just simplify the reporting process significantly, and also the staff that are costing their time. They clearly know what program they're working on, so it's not. It's just making sure that we're capturing the right costs against the right program.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Councillor Gleeson.
Mr. Mayor, with the NDIS, I thought it was sort of mostly cost recoverable, but the administration overheads don't seem to be on the paper. Don't seem to be recoverable. Is that the way it works?
Our finance manager Andrew, who was here earlier, is doing a fair bit of work around what that internal administrative overheads are, and that is a figure that we're being representing as what it is costing, I suppose, the rest of the business. We do have there is only so many fees that we can include in the on-cost we can include in our fees that we charge, and this is some of the other services that we, I suppose, that, as we're saying, are indirect to it, and we're just trying to represent what that figure is really costing.
So, just to wind back a year or two in our conversation here, this spreadsheet calculates the administrative overheads as a simple percentage of governance and corporate, doesn't it? It's not so it even factors in a percentage of the time that we spend discussing this as a council, and our input, and the time of the senior staff whose time is costed to no project ever, this level and above, even district managers and above, don't get costed to specific projects. So that's just looked at the operating but expenses it's a percentage of that. I don't know how small, it's obviously very small, it's 200,000. And so if our operating expenses happen to be very high across the board for the year in goal 1, which is what the goal is.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, it is the percentage of the cost in the program itself.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
So that $1 million that we've spent in the program, it's a percentage of that.
Not actually calculated by knowing someone sitting down and working out that the deputy CEO's had 5 meetings on it and therefore his hourly rate is this. It is purely a mathematical calculation that approximately 0.1% of the administrative time outside of the program that deals with it. So the program staff predominantly are costed to this.
That's correct.
Predominantly, like there's elements of that that's not recoverable, predominantly is, but the people like HR, for example, might have elements of what they do and payroll that might be fully costed to it. Dan, Shane, me, if I'm away, I'll be travelling to argue for more funding for NDIS. Well, that doesn't get costed to NDIS and it wouldn't be recoverable anyway. Whereas these guys here, there's possibly elements of what they do. So that figure was introduced about 5 years ago to show that there's not just the program in and outs, there's overheads that just don't ever appear in the system.
Through Chair, it's also included some equipment they use and things like that as well. So while we do include rent of the building and things like that, the administrative overheads includes like their computers and IT allowance and things like that. So those things that are not directly costed to the business, that are cost that council is incurring to run that service, is what we're trying to sort of capture there. It works similar to a lot of our other on-costs we use across, say for flood damage and for all the other works that happens across council as well, has an element of on-costs included on it, which is based on the percentage of what is being spent. So the restriction we have is with some of these programs, we can't claim all of those costs directly to it. So flood damage is really restrictive in what it can be. It's only really around the staff leave entitlements and superannuation entitlements, whereas with other works projects, such as main roads, there's some slightly different other things we can claim as well. And then with the rest of our business, we are trying to do a full cost recovery, which is when we looked at the budget, there was those employee costs and there's like 30 or 40 items there of all different things from training and all those sort of things. We have some money coming back in so we can fund those programs as well. So,
Yes, like you said, there's certain things we might have an hour service of a client. It takes us 3 hours to get there and get back. So that's how we record that time. What's claiming and what's not. So we break down having to capture what happens.
Okay.
What's the percentage figure that we use?
it varies from
Project to project?
from project type to project type. So flood damage,
No, I'm just talking about these NDIS sheets.
I would have to check.
Okay.
And it's had some constant adjustments as we've matured in our reporting. So when we first started, this was all really rough, and I know Tony Walsh and Brett did a lot of work on trying to make that figure accurate because the administrative overheads was probably very high, but it was just a nominal figure, it wasn't cash. And then I know subsequent to that, Sarmad did a lot of work with Tony on when he worked on the project, and I know subsequent to even their involvement, there's been some fine tuning to ensure that that figure is, because I've jumped up and down about it in this chamber multiple times, that it's too high. But once again, it's an indicative figure, and as we've had conversations there, those costs are going to be borne in this business somewhere, whether they're working on NDIS, flood damage, parks and gardens, fleet replacement. These are people whose costs are fixed and not necessarily, they're not employed because we've got those projects being delivered. So it is good to be indicative, but is it a true cash saving if you can shave 20 grand off it? No, not really. Computers notwithstanding, maybe you wouldn't need 1 or 2 extra laptops, but notwithstanding that, like vehicles are fully costed to the program. Yeah, chief assets in that respect are pretty well recovered, rent's covered as you've outlined. So, this predominantly deals with people that are external to the direct employment in the program and the impact that their time and, right down to yourself and myself. Councillor Rogers, you went off mute there a minute ago. Did you have a further question you wanted to ask about that, or a supplementary question?
No, Sean, I just, I'm not sure why I did that, sorry.
No, that's okay, that's okay. Councillor Arthur or Hanson, questions? Councillor Plum? Any more, councillor Gleeson?
Nothing.
Pedal?
Nothing.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, not about the financial side of it, but we did, well, I passed on some concerns raised down in the Alpha area. I just trust that that's being
Been sorted.
managed. Yep.
Yep, the person in general's been contacted by others. Rectified.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, not relating to this possibly, I was having a conversation with a lady that's had cancer before, and they do a swimming, I think, in the pool for exercise, and she actually just made a comment that the pool's open here in the morning for the kids and whoever else wants to go there, and it closes between 9 and 2 or 9 and 3, whatever the time happens to be, which is the time these people want to actually go to the pool and do their exercise program. Whether it's just in the future, whether there's a possibility of looking at having that pool open for an hour or something for those type of people. But it's just something within the future.
Two things I'll say to that. One is contract for pools is, for some pools, is coming up very shortly, so things like this can be negotiated. And secondly, unless the district manager's already dealt with it, if they come and see the district manager and, you know, the district manager sees fit, or they can negotiate something perhaps with the pool lessee if there's suitable protections in place. So even though the official times might be that, for example, schools get access during that time, they've got access through a separate arrangement, whether it's 60 and better or an NDIS participant, or even indeed for that matter, somebody who might want to carry out a corporate commercial aquarobics business. There's ways that can be negotiated outside of the official opening hours. So, you know, they might be given restricted access, they might have to pay for the privilege of being there, all those things, Jenny, or Paula, or Karen, would I be right in assuming that?
Yes, ma'am.
So if their first port of call, just steer them towards the relevant district manager and say, look, there's a potential, don't promise the world, but there certainly is. Schools are the number one that come to point. Every school uses our pool during hours, every single one of them does, when it's closed to the general public. So there'd be scope there for a like-minded but non-school-based activity to have access. There just have to be some necessary protections, speaking very much off cuff here and no legal advice, but around who's going to accept responsibility for the welfare of the participants, what, you know, do they have the suitable qualifications to supervise the people that are there? But aside from that, there shouldn't really be a problem.
I'll pass that on.
Okay. We can move to agenda item 333. I will move that council receives and notes the financial management letter. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. I just, well, Dan, do you want to say anything first? Sorry, it's yeah, I didn't want to speak, but after you introduce it, in case you answer the question.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just provide a quick summary. I'll assume we did cover a number of the items in this in the previous council meeting. This is sort of the formalised closure of the audit, confirming for the mayor the letters addressed to, but also for council as a whole and the community that have an interest that the audit has been completed and was unmodified. Audit opinion, which is the audit opinion that we want. With any audit, it does identify some deficiencies and opportunities for improvement or other matters. So there was a couple of those. I do note we have closed out a large number of the outstanding matters from the previous audit as well, and that are putting us in good stead, I suppose, with particularly our financial controls and our management practices. So, do you want me to go through the deficiencies and just provide an update on those, Mr Mayor, or are you happy for them to just be considered as read?
Well, I'm happy to take it as read and go to questions, but I just want to comment broadly. To have no significant deficiencies is commendable. I mean, obviously everybody aims that. It's like having 0 workplace incidents. You have to have that as your gold standard. Notwithstanding, you know, we've copped a bit of flack around the ridges, both here and obviously in the media, not directly naming us, about being late with our audit. We've already been through that. Don't want to rehash old ground. However, the fact that we've adjusted those statements, and even in the area, if you go to page 2 of the appendix, which I'm not sure it is of our agenda, page one, page one, the grant schedule and grant revenue recognition. Even there in the observation from the auditor, second paragraph where it says late adjustments were required to grant revenue and associated contract balances for 5 QRA grants. Now this was the real sticking point that required the material adjustment. They are teased out in great detail for the audit committee and obviously then explained at our subsequent receival of the reports. But they also, and give full credit here to the external auditor and to QAO, they note that management prepared the original grant schedule prior to receiving the documentation from QRA, which prompted the adjustments. Now, this is not overly dissimilar to the mistakes that, and I'm sorry for using that word, but for the error that's been detected in the financial statements. This stuff from QRA, I have been in the last few months privy to the documentation that we received. It is voluminous, and that's no excuse for a mistake and no excuse for a misstatement, but that there is substantial, it's not just like you get one statement per event, per claim within an event. If you've got multiple claims outstanding, there's documentation for each one. So they've identified it. They haven't categorised it as a significant deficiency. I just think that we are not actually, if we've handed down our final audit notice with, yes, there are acknowledged a couple of still open issues that have got to be resolved for the prior year audit, but they haven't been elevated in status. And I just think that overall our corporate finance team, and we have been progressing this way for some time, and I mean more than a few months, but I think that that's a good outcome. When we were already so late, I was worried in receiving this letter that what else might have been found, but they've gone right through it, and relatively speaking, yep, clearly we want to see reviewers signing off on stuff, reports coming through on evaluation processes for PPE, stock take procedures, that stuff's relevant. But the overall health from the audit, as I take it, is very healthy. There's no red flag over us. The timeliness of our last report obviously isn't great, but it hasn't identified issues that are raising red flags, with even the issue that caused the greatest delay not being categorised as a significant deficiency. Now, we have no control over this. This rating system, even though we can comment on it, is entirely driven by QAO and on the advice of the external auditors. So this is not a biased, this is not anything that can be influenced other than negatively by our involvement. And for this tick of approval for the way in which we're managing our finances, and full credit to those that sit on the audit committee for overseeing that. But I definitely want to relay my satisfaction to the staff who've worked very hard to ensure that as many of those prior year issues can be resolved, and that no current year significant deficiencies were identified. That's a great outcome, and that where those deficiencies were identified, that there was actually even recognition given by QAO as to why. So happy to open up to questions about individual things, and I think that'd be important if you did want to. But at the outset, I just wanted to set a positive note that that's probably as good a, that's great English, and they're going to love me down in Brisbane about that. That's the best quality closeout report I've seen in many years, in there was zero significant deficiencies for council. I think we're in a very good spot, and it's credit to the people involved, including councillors who sat on that audit committee, but also the level of interrogation, I'll use that word, that goes into our finances has ensured that our staff do a very good job in preparing the financial documents, because they know that the 7 of us, someone in here is going to pick up on something if there's something not right, as we do, but the processes and procedures that are put in place behind that to ensure that the accuracy of that data remains valid is very commendable. So well done, everybody. Questions? Councillor Peebles.
Mr Mayor, I'll just reiterate what you said. I congratulate the finance team on the job they've done too. I think I appreciate how much information we get these days, and I think they've done a great job there. But I have got one issue, Mr Mayor, and that is the variance from 99.5 to 124,600 for the payment to the audit team. I think they give us a price and some sort of an idea before they come. And, you know, there's always going to be issues with audits that they should understand that it might take longer. And I always think that these sorts of organisations probably err on the side of, we'll go a bit higher than a bit lower. I have spoken to another council about their audit, and their audit for this year was around 60,000, similar size budget to ours. So I have got a problem with paying 120, close on 125,000 to this audit team for their services.
We did discuss that, councillor, and the reasons behind it, and I think it was actually going to be higher then, and you negotiated some savings, is that right?
Through Chair, I don't think we've had any real say in that figure at all, councillor. It is what we can express our dissatisfaction, I suppose, with the increase. Our understanding is that they spent double the hours on our audit than they had previously. We're trying to seek clarification as to why that did occur, because if they're spending double the hours, it would normally suggest there's issues they're trying to resolve or trying to work through, or deficiencies being identified that are of a significant nature. So given that they spent double the hours and we've only had to pay $30,000 more, it is, well, $25,000 more, it is, I suppose, a little win, but still, we don't really have any clear reason as to why they did spend double the hours. So, and that figure, it is an estimate at the start of the year, and having been through a few audits, it usually comes in at the estimate they have. We did exceed the time, so I do know there was additional time and effort they need to put into allow for staff and roster staff on, additional to what they planned. But given it wasn't twice the hours, we're still unclear as to what that is. But coming back to that, we don't really have a say in what that figure ends up being.
Does the audit office have a say? Queensland Audit Office?
The QAO, yes, they do. Yeah.
Can we make,
We'll be letting them.
please do, yeah.
Can I just add, I think the two parts of this report's really good. It probably shows the amount of effort that our staff have done to make us more professional, our reporting's improved. The amount of integrity in the data that the council's getting, but that last one is the reporting's improved immensely. So our staff have done that, and noting that it takes close to 5 days to get information just for a monthly report, let alone go through all their systems and processes. Very proud of the work they've done.
All right, questions on the audit. Councillor Plum, Chair of the Audit Committee.
I don't have any real questions. I didn't like what they charged us to start with, but it is what it is. No, I thought, and the only other things I'm sort of just looking at in it is we're still working under our assets, trying to get all our assets and things organised as well, I believe. So once they come into some sort of control, I think, but yeah, that was the only thing I had just reading through it, was that our assets management is still in progress, work in progress. So,
I can just have that since we have engaged with the gentleman was here the other day doing the health check to make assets a priority as our number one focus going forward.
yeah, that was
Our
my
AMP,
only,
sorry.
that was my only little, no.
Councillor Rogers, you're the other councillor on the Audit Committee.
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't have it.
Councillor Peoples, you've spoken. Councillor Gleeson, anything?
No, Mr. Mayor, I was just, I had the $124,000 bill highlighted, but Councillor Peoples has spoken about that. Thank you.
Councillor Hanson? Councillor Arthur?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing, well, two things. Councillor Plum touched on one. I probably wouldn't have been, I have a different take on it from the risk implementation comment in the agenda about it not having a direct impact on our enterprise risk. one of the things that they did brought up is we haven't touched our risk register for a couple of years. So we probably don't know whether it has a direct or indirect, no direct or an indirect impact on your enterprise risk. And as Councillor Plum touched on, like our asset management plans, that without getting those sorted, we're still potentially going around in circles with some of our works programming and value for money when it comes to some of our maintenance. Other than that,
Can I comment on that, Smith, please?
You can.
Yeah. So I suppose the point in the risk implications was the recommendations report didn't have any. That's the meeting agenda report on impact on risk. I suppose one thing the audit does, that the external audit does, is it looks at process and consistency of following that process that we have established. Whether that's suitable financial controls and implementation of controls, and also whether we're trying a true and accurate record of our financial numbers. So when we're talking about that, if we look at that first deficiency, for example, it's talking about how we had to make adjustments to the financial statements because of the finalisation of the QRA flood damage programs late post us getting the draft financials to the auditors. That's noted as a deficiency because we weren't representing the right numbers, and that's why it's been noted in there. What the audit doesn't do is it doesn't look to say, well, you were saying you were going to receive $1 million, yet when the outcome comes through, it turned out you had to pay back $1 million. Like, it doesn't look as to why. What did we not do right to get that? If you know what I mean? It's just making sure that we have the numbers correct that we're showing, and we followed the process to get there, as opposed to actually delving into what for us, which is the dollars and cents issue of a $2 million turnaround in numbers. Does that make sense?
I guess I could say from flood damage, for example, the flood damage estimate might have been $2 million. We've got our 30% claim and the actuals come in at not anywhere near the $2 million. So it's that adjustment isn't what we said it was going to be, the estimate, what we actually paid. And in some cases, we did the job so cheap that we had to give some of the money back. So some of it was because, obviously the job was done at a really good price. Or some evidence was missing that we couldn't claim. So. But the amount we're talking about here, the adjustment didn't come until December, some 5 months after the end of the financial year. So.
I think the point you're raising, Councillor Arthur, is more not about the specific of that, but the fact that risk is, for us to say that it's a no risk or no enterprise risk, given that the risk register may not have been updated, is a bit of a, that's the...
Yeah, and plus we've got, there are small instances, we've got projects in our project report later on, or goals that are $2 million over, and it's from last year. Like, how well have we managed that risk financially? Like, and what do we not spend $2 million on that we've got budgeted for this year because we're already overspending on projects from the previous year? Like, and not to say that a review of the risk register, like our enterprise risk register, would have stopped that, but it's all part of the bigger enterprise risk management.
I guess through the chair, you'll see we're pushing for the audit committee to be audit risk now, so audit risk will become their priorities.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. 341, Regional Council Business. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, yeah. First, I'd really like to congratulate all my businesses and also council for the 89 International Women's Day, and it was really good to hear that across our council we've got more than 70 women employed overall, which is probably a lot better than other businesses do in that field. Also, the other thing that I wanted to say today, I guess it's with mixed emotions that we bid farewell to you as our colleague and friend, Mr Mayor. We embarked on this local government journey together 8 years ago, and it's been an amazing experience. During this time, we faced tough decisions, and we had our fair share of heated debates. Your commitment, Sean, to public service has been a guiding light for all of us, and we've learnt so much from your methods of making so much from your methods for making a positive impact. Your bantering has brought laughter to our discussion, and your leadership allowed us to tackle difficult things. Your move into state politics marks a new beginning for you, and I want to express my deepest gratitude for the camaraderie and the memories, because beyond all the political hustle, you've always made me feel like my voice was heard and valued, and that's what I'm going to miss most about you, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone here when I say that. Cheers to the memories, the challenges and growth, and farewell. I hope that your journey ahead is as remarkable as the one that we've all shared together. And my fellow councillors, I just also want to say it's been an honour working alongside you for these past 4 years, and may we all continue to serve our community with the same dedication in the future, wherever we are. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Thank you very much for your kind words, and I assure you that the pleasure of that you've outlined that we work together is mutual. I really have enjoyed that experience, but I'll reserve a few comments in that respect for a few moments. Councillor Plum. No regional business. Councillor Arndt.
Through you, Mr Mayor, very much in the vein of Councillor Rogers, I'd like to thank you. As a first-term councillor, I think you'd go a long way before you found a better mayor and a better role model as a councillor. I'd like to thank the group of current councillors that we have, and also the staff that we've had over the 4 years, because we have had a bit of a change, and I'm sure it's been hard for them at times dealing with new councillors and particular questions that we have. But I think generally we get on and we do a fair job for our regional council. It's not always easy.
Good story. Thank you. Councillor Hanson.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just congratulate you in the future endeavours, and I'd just like to thank all councillors and all the staff that made the last 4 years quite pleasurable for me, and just the best of luck for the upcoming election to all those put their hand up.
Councillor Pleasant.
Mr Mayor, I would like to, about 4.5 years ago, I sort of couldn't believe it, about 4.5 years ago, Sean, I'll forget about Mr Mayor, Sean come and asked me would I run for council, and I reluctantly for a while, and then I thought, yeah, why not? Well, thank you very much. It's been good. I've appreciated your help. I've appreciated working with everybody. Great experience. Thank you, Sean. Congratulations on your next part of your career. And yeah, if the public allow us to be back here next month, we'll do it again. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Peters.
Mr Mayor, I'm like everyone else. I thank you for your leadership, your friendship, and the work you've put in for the last 4 years. I've worked with a few mayors, and I think that your efforts were over and above the call of duty on a lot of occasions. I think you really put your heart and soul into the job and had a really good crack at it. Congratulations for the way you applied yourself to the job. With your pre-selection win for Gregory, I wish you all the best there. And whoever's sitting in this room after October this year, I think it'll be very positive to possibly have a transport minister or something that we can work with at a state level.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I was thinking also minister for stock routes and cutting down dogs or something.
They're very presumptive.
Well done, Mr Mayor, you've done
Thank you,
You've
councillor.
done a terrific job. To everyone that's sitting in this room here as a councillor, as to all of you, I've spent a fair few terms on council, and this team in this room this year is as good as any team I've worked with over the last 4 years. You've been a terrific team, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of this council. To all the candidates that are running in this election, can I just say congratulations for putting your hand up and wanting to serve your community too, because I think it's we need a lot more of that in people to put their hand up. And finally, just all the people that work for us, Mr Mayor, you know, our admin staff, our senior staff, you know, our accounts department, right through to our workforce outside, to everyone that works for us. Thanks to all of them, because without them we don't achieve nothing. So I just want to say it's been a great 4 years, and thanks everyone for making it that way.
Thank you, councillor.
Mr Mayor, everyone has said almost what I really want to say, but yeah, I will say thank you for everything that you've done for us and for me in the last 4 years, in the progression of making everything better. So wish everyone the best of luck in the next couple of weeks with the election. And hopefully some of us will return, hopefully.
Thank you, councillors. Just in the spirit of regional council business, I'd just like to do a couple of things. I'd like to just ensure that in your travels as staff and councillors that you encourage people to please ensure that they have voted by Friday. And if they haven't received a ballot paper, which touch wood, I have not yet heard of anyone this year, but if there is, just ensure that you help them get in contact with the returning officer. You know the returning officer's details. Get that information through to the RO as quickly as possible. So that something can be noted. I'm not sure what the outcome is, but just given this is a full postal plebiscite, please talk to the RO. I also want to give a shout out for a community event that's occurring this week in both Buckhalden and Alpha, and that's the muster of people that are coming back on the Outback Trailblazers reunion. And I acknowledge the staff who've done a lot of work to ensure that an event at Alpha, but also an event here, goes off well, and I know that the significant community involvement right through to very small school children in that weekend or in that event, and I'm sure there will be some really special moments, and there'll be some shots and footage come from the jump up about at Alpha where they are going to be performing that will be able to be used to promote the region for a long time. And also want to acknowledge the leaders of the Alpha State School. I was privileged to be able to attend their leadership induction. Third generation school leaders being inducted, all with mum, dad and grandma and granddad still in the room, and teachers even there, and it was really special. And some, the new school leader there is actually a new school attendee and father plays for the Brumbies and works on Queensland Rail, and like that's embodies the spirit of what made Alpha a town that it was, a railway town, and to think that we've got a railway worker's daughter leading the school there and doing such a fantastic job just shows that there's still an element of the past relevant in all of our communities. And also I want to give a big shout out, if you're not on social media, have a look up on either YouTube or any streaming service. There's a wonderful little school song that was done by an outside country music artist, by Josh Arnold, and it's you know, they're all good. Every one of them school songs is good. I think Muttaburra had one in the last 12 or 18 months, and Junda have had them, and they've been all around. They're a fantastic initiative, but the most recent one in our patch to be released is the Alpha State School, and there's everything from kids falling off into dams and riding horses, and it's a special little thing, and they launched that the day of the leadership induction, and you should have seen the kids right down to the little preppies, which there's quite a few of at Alpha this year, and they were still remembering their dance moves that they had to do on camera, and they were doing them while they were watching themselves. So I think little small things, and whoever funds those initiatives, they are something that gives our kids a sense of purpose, and without our kids having a sense of purpose, everything we're doing is a waste of time. It really is about providing a better place, not only for residents today, but residents of the future. I've probably segued into that's the sole reason why I got involved in politics. I didn't need the job. I still don't. It's just I like it. I like the opportunity to be able to work with people, even if I do seem a bit cross at times or frustrated or captured by a system. I think government's just like business, it's a system and it's about navigating it that matters, not about smashing it and throwing all of the toys out of the cot and rebuilding it from the ground up. There's so many good people and good parts to our institutions that we need to capitalise on, and yes, change is always inevitable, but it needs to be for the right reason. I want to touch on the people first because the people are the most important to me. In my time as a councillor and as fortunate as I was to be able to be the mayor of the council area, very top of the list I want to put my wife and my mother and my son and 2 daughters. There's something I always shielded them from because it's really easy to have somebody come along just simply for the sake of coming along. My family run a really proactive modern business and they've done that without me essentially now for a while. I got a little bit involved in the last couple of weeks, which is, was more to their frustration than their embodiment. But people would have seen there'd be a lot of people that would have known me for 8 years as their councillor and their mayor and honestly wouldn't know my wife or even struggle to recognise her. But I assure you that I wouldn't have been able to do what I did without what she did for me. So she's been every bit involved in this journey. I'd like to thank the CEOs who I've worked closely with for a fair bit of that time. To Stephen Boxall, who was here when I first came on board. Brett Walsh has done a very substantial period of time as a CEO with us, and in closing with Shane. Those 3 men provided vastly different degrees of advice in different ways, with vastly different experiences in local government, all of which brought a different dynamic to myself, and in all 3 of them were actually almost the opposite of me in some ways. Which provided a bit of stability and balance at the top when we worked together, and I really appreciated that, and I wish all 3 of them the very best in their future careers in business and local government. I want to thank the DMs, 4 of whom I've had the pleasure of working with, Paula, Jenny, Karen and Damien. You are across the areas, across all of the issues in your area that you need to brief us on. You sit in these rooms for hours, countless hours, listening and thinking if only we could say something. I hope that I've given you the opportunity to provide not only the district's advice but an understanding of the history behind decisions where I know that you've been involved. This room's strength is by having you district managers as part of what we do. Whether you're executive or district, to me doesn't matter. It's the fact that you represent geographically but also strategically a significant amount of our, not only our staff and not only our decision making, but the interaction with the public, with community events. And I hope whatever structure survives moving forward or is amended to as a future council's prerogative is that there's a degree of executive level representation in this room, because whether it's community grants that require assistance or advice, community assets that require maintenance and upgrading, or community grants for events, I genuinely think that we're best served by having direct advice from people close at an operational level to that, and I'm very grateful for your support. I'd like to thank 3 men as the district senior work supervisors who we don't actually get to interact with as a council, but certainly I have as mayor, to Graham Lawrence, to Doug and to Kevin. You manage hundreds of millions of dollars of assets. You do it in the face of ever decreasing budgets, and yes, in this complaint-driven business that local government is, they receive the lion's share of flack, whether it's direct or anecdotally, and they have to live in the community where someone's first comment to them over a coffee or a beer is, when are you going to grade my road, even if it's tongue-in-cheek. They must get sick of that, and in some cases it must actually absolutely make them terrified of going out in public. So I really do thank the people who've been responsible for leading that response. Our Director of Works, I've had 2 that I've worked closely with, Rick Rolfe and Chris Rowan, both people that I still maintain contact with, and they were good directors to work with as a mayor. LGAQ is something that not every local government interacts closely with, but I made it a purpose very early on to work with an organisation who's got the skills around advocacy, financial advice, report building. So Greg and Alison as their leaders and Sarah and Nathan as the contacts for us have been very good friends to Barcaldine, and even if at times the public or the other councillors may not have seen them, I had access to rooms in 1 William Street purely because of one phone call to Sarah or Alison, and I could walk in and see the Deputy Premier or Premier in a minute's notice. Obviously from that we developed a good relationship directly, but the doors were opened by the LGAQ. A couple of areas that constantly get touched on that I leave as unfinished business. However, I don't think whether I was here for 4 years or 24 years, it'd be something that wasn't unfinished, and I've always been very clear on highlighting areas of deficiency as well as I am strength. Our asset management plans certainly need to be brought forward and done. I don't know how many times I've commented on them over 4 years. I think for once we actually are close, but still need to be delivered. The sewage treatment plant is a walking time bomb that just hasn't blown up yet, but when it does, we want to make sure that we're ready with our new stuff to turn that online so that we can deliver on our water initiative savings for the town and ensure that the rec park doesn't run dry. The OIA is an absolute disgrace and an abomination that sits over local government in Queensland. It has touched every member of this room, staff and councillors. It is a joke. The quicker it's abolished and returned the real control over who sits in this room to the voters that will vote on the 16th of March, the better. Of course, we don't condone bullying or harassment, but we need to call it out for what it is and deal with it as a responsible, mature organisation instead of handing it over to a bunch of school kids in Brisbane to play cops and robbers. It is a joke. It will never be reformed good enough. It must be abolished. I fear for anyone who continues in these roles that while ever it exists, you fear the headmaster knocking on the door and pretending to scare you out of whatever it is that you might be doing in the best interests of your constituents or your community. So keep up the pressure to get rid of what is probably the biggest joke to face local government in a long time. We have had some significant developments though, as easy it is to point to the negatives as a council, and I do want to touch on them. Yes, we have got ourselves to a cash position, including the restricted and unrestricted, largely on the back of fags being increased. That didn't happen without some really hard work behind the scenes. There was the reform that was undertaken that saw councils have their methodology changed, took a considerable body of effort, and if you remember rightly, we contributed independently to that, and I spoke for lengths with the people involved to ensure that we were better off, but that we tried to minimise how many councils were worse off, which I was very mindful of our brothers and sisters in local government across the state. Unfortunately, we might have got that win, but we certainly got a win for us that will just free the pressure on future rate rises and future utility costs. I think the building consolidation here, whilst it's caused a bit of pain, has moved to I think as a decision to dispose of the asset that was the regional office building. As a council, you actually took a giant step towards perhaps reunifying our regional workforce with our workforce. I certainly detected when I took over the difference between the street and I'm grateful that I just hope that we can resolve the space issue in time to come and keep our people together. It's bad enough that we have to have so many people in different towns, but when you're in different towns and you're separated by a causeway that may as well be the Great Wall of China, I think we're in a better spot for the disposal of that asset. We were the only local government in Queensland to deliver on safety trench 1, 2 and 3 during COVID on time, which ensured we kept qualifying for the next, which has expedited the sealing and rehabilitation work on Aramac Barcaldine. We are about 4 years ahead of schedule, and with the completion of this next body of works, we're going to all but see the complete rehab of what was our priority 1 infrastructure investment road for TMR completely rehabbed and widened. Now that not only delivers on a body of works for council, but it's the highest trafficked road in our, outside the Kaplan Landsborough highways, it's the most trafficked road in our local government, and that means that we've lobbied and delivered on improving safety upgrades, but also all weather access. I mean, you know, them small sections, you get a couple of trucks coming at each other, one of, if not both of them are bogged. So that's a major win for our region. Securing the water for the rec park, despite its ongoing issues, has been, I think, a feather in our cap to be able to commit to securing the water and then finding the savings via the sewage treatment plant, which I've touched on as an issue. Improved water security for Barcaldine. The delivery of the new bore has now formed a form of redundancy around the collapse of the old one. We put in place the policy of carrying spare parts. We've looked at upgrades to the water treatment plants, and we're now further looking at sewage treatment upgrades in Aramac. So water and waste security is something that I think we've delivered on as a council, and that is one of the pillars that we as a local government have to be responsible for. We delivered the cross-loader facility in Alpha. It's ironic that you might, or deliver the funding for it. It's ironic you might touch on that. That was something that kept me awake at night. Anyone who's driven or been around cattle trucks that are cross-loading understand why. It's a huge safety concern and a major dust and noise issue for the community of Alpha. And whilst it may seem small in the tens of millions of dollars we've spent, I think it's going to be something that in the fullness of time will be fully identified as a really good project to deliver. Improved awareness of Barcaldine is something that I've really strived to achieve, whether it be in Canberra or Brisbane. People know where Barcaldine is. When you're talking about renewable energy or agriculture or anything in between, people now know and are aware of, and we've sat on a number of government advisory boards, and we're not just introduced as a Queensland local government representative, we're introduced as the Mayor of Barcaldine. And people know where that is now as something other than just an iconic place in political past. It's now relevant to the future because we've had people here support and stand up for that. Some important plant delivery, one of which was only this week, so it took us a while. The street sweeper, I think, will in time deliver real benefits to all communities, not only in their presentation, but the identification of asset failure before it occurs, so back into asset management. I think we're going to see some, I believe, just like we will with the purchase of a stabiliser, I think we're going to deliver real savings and efficiencies to TMR, but also project delivery for QRA. I really think that those were important decisions, and they've been made with an eyes wide open approach by council, and I commend you all for that. I want to close with the one thing that I think was the hallmark of what I stood for as Mayor, and that was around transparency. I knew that not everyone would agree with everything I said or that we did as a council, but they needed to understand why. They needed to understand that people in this room are elected on the basis of their life experiences and trusted to make decisions on the community and on community groups' behalf. Hiding behind a decision and a 6-1 vote wasn't good enough, and that's what previous local governments have done. We were given the opportunity with very simple technology to put our individual thoughts as councillors forward, decide as a collective what the outcome would be, and then stand behind that as we move forward. I think that the introduction of the recording of these meetings and the publication of that has been a major step in educating the community, even if it has been a slow process, into the important work of local government. I want to close with thanking each of the councillors that I've served with, both in the previous council as councillor and for your support to bring me on board, but to the 6 of you that I've served with, to Councillor Rogers as my deputy, Councillor Peoples as the longest standing representative of local government in the room. You brought both of you have brought a balance to my approach. Councillor Gleeson is a long-standing family friend. To have disagreed and still smiled and had a cup of tea was something 4 years ago I didn't know that we'd be able to do, but we have, and I respect and thank you for that. Councillor Hanson, who I met after you were first elected, or in the process of the election last year, you have always brought a depth of experience to our discussions, whether it be formally here or privately, and you've always ensured that if there's an issue that I may not be aware of, that you've kept me up to date with that, and I really appreciate the lengths you've gone to as a councillor in that respect, and as a friend, I thank you very much. Councillor Arthur has brought a shared love of rugby league, although certainly not for our respective teams, but outside of that, a really clear attention to detail has ensured that my meeting preparation has been on point, but a really good understanding of the issues that may not be something I had has allowed us to forge a good working relationship, and I trust that our relationship will withstand the change in local government. And Councillor Plum, like you and Councillor Rogers, we both came on together and we've seen 8 years out, and I hope that both of you get to see more out. But your calm and guiding influence and care for the people in the room, the people outside the room. The only thing I'm not going to miss is asking you to speak up, as I probably average about 3 times a meeting. But no, look, your quiet, considered comments, personally and professionally, have been well received. So thank you very much. And the 4 people who have had to keep me in order So Hayley and Jess and then Deb and Jan, thank you very much. You do a power of work behind the scenes that, unless you're a mayor or CEO, would go unnoticed by the vast majority. So thank you. It's a rambling thank you. It'll be watched by nobody, but it was heard by those that matter. And I thank you very much for your support and the ability to work with you for the last 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item 351. Can I have somebody move the councillor information correspondence be received?
Can
Councillor.
I just add a bit of information for everyone? We've had a few over Aramac Way that haven't got their papers. So I made a call to ECQ the other day and got the operations manager. And his advice is that if anyone hasn't got their papers, they can go to the RO office and vote there in front of her. So he's given that advice. He said even if the RO office doesn't know, he said that is allowable. So if you haven't got papers, you can go and sit with her here in Barkle at the Willows and cast your vote.
Well, that's important to pass that on, councillors. If you do strike somebody who hasn't received their papers, obviously it could be a little challenging if they're in Alpha, but if there was an aggregation of them, they might be able to share a car ride down on Friday and vote. Councillor information correspondence.
Councillor, I'll just take them as being read.
Councillor Gleeson moves, Councillor Hanson seconds. Those in favour? Gary?
I think, councillors, the two bits in there was obviously Small Business Commission, just to follow on. I wouldn't worry about reading the first one unless you need to sleep. And the third one's a travel today. News articles just show that we're out and about. I think they're just taken as read.
Any questions, comments? 352, the Planning and Development Report. Can I have somebody move it be received, please? Councillor Plum, second. Councillor Up. Those in favour? 7-0.
Final meeting, get it right. Councillor Arthur's report was right at the front. Good. And yeah, the rest of the assessments are just there as they're going.
Questions? Councillor Rogers?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yep.
With the sewage connection and disconnection and disconnecting, does council still have, do we have an inspector to sign off on those?
Plumbing inspectors, yeah, we do. So Kerry was signing off. We've now got a water and sewage treatment plant coordinator, and we're currently getting our plumbers authorised as well to become plumbing inspectors.
Yeah, thank you, Shane.
Further questions? Can I have somebody move the Workplace Health and Safety Report be received, please? Councillor Hanson, seconded. Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? 7-0.
Once again, council, just for noting, we currently have, as it's reported, we've actually got staff at the moment in Aramac going through their VOCs. We've done Barcall and we're currently planning to do Alpha, so our rollout of the system's still going on.
I have a question.
Yes, councillor.
Shane, what specific grants have been applied for to support necessary training?
I missed a bit of that. What grants have we applied for?
Yeah, what?
Okay, LGAQ currently has some funding in place, so we've applied for separate additional funds that we don't necessarily have, and some will be for traffic management, some other skill set. There's a bucket of money there available, which we've applied for about 4 separate lots of training.
That's administered by
LGAQ's overseeing it, they've got the funding bucket, and we've got them at the moment, so they've been applied for.
Were there any areas of workplace health and safety that were identified as priorities by the staff at that committee meeting held in February, Shane.
HSRs, yeah, I'd have to pull up the minutes from the HSR meeting, but yeah, there was identified certain issues they want to pick up. Dan was there on my behalf for that one, the particular council.
Through Chair, it was for confined spaces and working at heights was two of the trainings, and also the traffic control. So some of the mandatory stuff we need just to conduct our standard operations.
The traffic control we're looking at. We've already put a number of staff through working from heights and confined spaces, because we were doing some work at the sewage treatment plant, and we do some at heights work. We're also looking at asbestos as well.
Thank you.
Further questions on WHS? Okay, economic development report. Can somebody move that be received, please? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples. Those in favour? 7-0. There has been, to add to the work that the officer has undertaken here, has been a work that I've been undertaking with the RAP power grid. I undertook a site visit to Hughenden last week with Visor and the Chair of RAPID and the Mayor of Barcoo. Is that last week? Yeah, cool. The week RAPID meeting was on anyway, I've lost track, sorry, but in the last fortnight. There's a large, I'll restart. In Hughenden, at Hughenden, there is a modest wind and solar battery integrated project. It was the first of its kind in Australia. It has been superseded since by a bigger one, but so effectively what it does is there's a wind farm and a solar farm and a battery. It tops the battery up. A client somewhere in Australia has purchased any wind or solar that enters the grid at the Ergon feeder is owned by them. So they've used that as an offset. They're purchasing green energy, for example. There's a lot of companies that do that. What goes into the battery is the companies, and they use that to discharge at times of relatively high cost or peak demand, so they can make a bit of extra money. So it's uncontracted, it's spot price power. It is a very similar style of what could be proposed, or is proposed, sorry, it could be developed through this Aramac to Emerald corridor through here, where you can see integrated wind and solar using Great Dividing Range and the Downs to combine at a battery and a feed-in point. Most likely Aramac Barcaldine, one or two in this vicinity with very large, like as in one or two feed-in points, so the power will be aggregated and then pushed through them, because the transmission line proposed for Hughenden to Gladstone is much bigger than is currently available from Hughenden to Townsville. It is, there's certainly, and I'm not meaning to, and I'm not trying to take sides, but there is, in the location where the wind turbines are, and I stood virtually directly underneath one, I think you couldn't get into 30 metres, but they're 160 metres to the top of the tip. So they're 80 metres with 80 metre, more than that, sorry. They're very high anyway. But there's no exclusion around them other than a proper paddock right around them. There's several hundred cows and calves in there, and they didn't even know the wind turbines were turning, and yet I'm like, oh, that's, you can hear that. So there's certain, and that wind turbine's been turning, even though it wasn't necessarily pumping power into the grid. It's been going now for a couple of years, and so there's certainly some opportunities for agriculture, certainly in low quality agricultural land, to participate in wind through this region. And I would encourage, if any of you get the opportunity to undertake a site visit to a renewables energy site, to do so. I was even impressed with the volume of work generated by the solar farm. Like, they make ours look like postage stamps. It's a pretty big solar farm. But in site maintenance, they have fuses, believe it or not. Each solar array has a fuse, and they pop quite frequently. So if you don't have somebody on site managing them, your array's not pumping any power into the grid. Wiring requires constant maintenance on them. They don't actually clean the panels in this part of the world very often, because they don't get as dusty as they do in coastal areas. But there's a whole host of work associated with the maintenance of a solar farm if you want to manage a big one properly. So something that we've always historically said is a low employment vector, is a very solid, those two combined entities for the Flinders Shire area are very valuable employment opportunities, and they're small compared to the scale of what is proposed to be connected to a large transmission line through this region. So very substantial employment opportunities, and indeed diversification of employment base will be required for the skill set that's required to develop and then maintain them moving forward. I do note that Rapid has authorised a tour to the United States to have a look at 3 similar volume, similar scale developments, and the directors of Rapid will be undertaking that post the election, or delegates on their behalf. It is a very impressive opportunity for this region to capitalise on, but I think we need to keep doing it in the light of the way that Visor have done it. No secrets, no surprises. No one needs a letter in the mail to say we're going to build a big solar farm here. There needs to be on-ground consultation with people who are receptive, or conversely not, and we need to understand that. It does bring exciting opportunities, but it'll bring challenges as well. But I think that this is something that it's a bit of a new frontier for us. It looks like we've missed out on the resources boom. Don't see a big coal mine at Alpha anytime soon, but a big power project through here could be a game changer for the Central West, including access to better power as a secondary fallout. So that has been a very significant body of work that, from an economic development perspective, that I've been working on. Obviously with Morgan as well, but with John Joseph O'Brien from Visor, and indeed I'll be meeting with him again on Thursday this week in Brisbane as we wind down, just to complete a few moving parts of the puzzle. Questions? Can I have somebody move the HO report, please? Councillor Arthur, seconded. Councillor Hanson, those in favour? 7-0. Questions?
Councillor, I might just add, the Rapid CEO's engaged, or we've employed a regional EHO, was Phillips his name. He came and attended the user group sort of initial meeting the other night. He's been on site a couple of times now to start inspections, and then very near future will be doing food licensing for us. So he's basically residing in Blackpool, but he's close, and he's been a good addition to us to have an on-the-ground environmental health officer. This is a bit of an update of where he's been and what he's done. So.
I actually like Shane, the fact that he's a shared resource, but it's a joint report. It sort of probably informs council that it is a shared resource, keeps that very aware that those issues are not relevant to us, but they're still relevant to the role that he's filling, so that, if we as councillors were to receive feedback about how long it takes for something to happen, hang on, we can't afford to employ this bloke on his own. He's looking after everywhere from Boulia, or this lady, whoever it is, from Boulia to Alpha. That's a fairly big patch for one officer. So I do like the style. I don't know if that'll maintain as he moves forward, but the style of developing one report makes sense from a process point of view, that he develops one council report and gives it to all 4 councils. Has he worked with 4 of us?
Yep, all of us.
Or all 7 of us?
Where he can get to them. It's, the trips further west are obviously not as intense as what ours are, and there's some access at the moment because of weather. But he'll gauge his time around Diamantina, around probably the race events. We'll do the same thing when they have a festival, and same as when. So there's key times of the year that it's good to have him on the ground in those places.
Just gives us an overview of what's happening in the region too, what people are up to.
And councillors would have witnessed him the other night when we had our meeting. He spoke very well and was calm, and I thought he had a good rapport with the range.
No questions? Yes?
Through you, Mr Mayor, probably a question or something I should have clarified to start with, proposed resolution. But the CEOs of the Rapid Regional Council, can we, just a matter of process, can we make a resolution that includes other CEOs, or should that just sort of be?
As in?
Well, because the resolution was.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the CEO.
The
sorry.
CEO, Chief Executive Officers of the Rapid Regional Councils received the report, like,
Yeah, it should be council receives
yeah,
the rapid regional.
He did report to us, and I just added it in, so.
yeah. No, and like I said, I should have clarified it, seeing I moved it.
It's really an information report that
Yeah.
put attached on the back of mine.
Councillor Hanson, you happy with that amendment? Alright,
Oh, if we can make decisions for the other CEOs, then maybe the.
so long as they don't make them free us.
True, yeah, it doesn't work in reverse.
I'll let him know that.
We'll only share so far. 361, can I have someone move my final report, please? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Gleeson, those in favour? Carried, 7-0. With those meetings, we just close out meetings except for the Burlington Regional Water Assessment. I spoke to that last time. We need to keep an ongoing profile there to ensure that there's a good outcome for the region. The Industrial Regions Action Network, I am the local government representative on the, that's an Australia-wide body looking at ensuring that as we electrify the economy, that there's no part or no region left behind or those that want to capitalise Kent. Our last meeting was looking at freeing up the development application process for new renewables. Well, it's not an issue in Queensland because we're not part of it anyway, so I stayed quiet all day.
Mr Mayor, what happens now with the Beef Corridor Steering Committee? Are you able to still stay on that or just?
I wouldn't need to. It would be the mayors of the 7 councils. There's going to be a bit of change there. Warrabinda are changing theirs. Mayor Baker's stepped aside, so Councillor Bebe will take a place there. There's an election in Emerald. Nev Ferrier staying on in Banana. Matty Burnett staying on. Tony Williams is in an election. So, but all of us have said that we'll brief our incoming mayors on that. That's a project that will continue. The state, as I reported last time, has actually accelerated their element of the funding, and that works. That's an ongoing. It's now shifted from advocacy to delivery. And it's ensuring that it's delivered so that all councils get some benefit out of it, instead of the being cherry picked one at a time, and one council getting all the work and all the early work and none, and someone else missing out entirely. So I think one thing we talked about is it was such an effective advocacy tool that once we get this project bedded down and started, you would use it potentially cherry pick the next, like we picked the high order roads. Well, let's come back down and find the next lot that TMR own and just use the exact same methodology, because we kicked it off, and within 12 months we had a state government commitment, we had a federal government commitment, and then a few months later we had state, and we had the election change and had to have it reconfirmed, which slowed it down a little bit, but yeah, it was very effective. And the biggest thing was because it was effective because we were picking a single issue, but we did it as a collective of local governments that crossed main roads boundary districts. So main roads and the federal government thought this is that important that they're even prepared to step outside of their own rocks for it. So I think there's some real benefit to that. But that would be for an incoming council to determine.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just.
Okay. Any more questions? 362, can I have somebody move the CEO's report be received, please? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples, those in favour? Carried. Questions? Gotcha, Melinda. Well, Shane, have you got anything on the highlight?
I guess, Councillor, we can have a quick run through the BRES that we've been talking about. I've also now got the draft funding agreement from the department, the MOU which we've drafted up. That's all sitting with agencies now where we're looking at the drafts to have some amendments or changes if we see fit. As you know, we talked about the Barkey Rec Park and the ongoing backwards and forwards over that one. We are looking at we have established a user group that will meet next week. We've proposed it. There's some other work going on behind the scenes with the contractor. We did cancel the harvester as requested. The contractor is now, the new contract for the alternative treatment has only just as of a day or so ago come back with an amended price, and the requirements under that, there were some checks and balances to make sure of insurances, safety, certificates of currency to operate. So all that's now in a room to progress. Along with that is also the funding arrangement for the 400 plus for the amendments out there. The scoping of that, we have agreed to scope it properly, so we've got the scoping now ready to go to vendor panel. That'll get discussed at the user group next week as well, so we can set those priorities in place. Safety management systems rolling out as we go. So our own staff, and the simple one when we talk about standing operating procedures, our staff are writing them themselves in their language, how we operate, how they do their work, which makes more sense than putting something in front that no one understands. One I might mention is the land use or the refuse facilities. Council will recall that we closed the old dump. We had some people accessing the dump, so we closed off that access as well. Someone then bypassed that and cut the fence, so we've closed that off, and then they've gone and bypassed again and cut another section of fence. So despite all our efforts, we still have one or two that fail to follow signs, but generally our community has responded well, and they're quite respectful of the new site, and they're dumping okay in that space. I did put at the end of the HR bit about the number of recruitments, 12 new ones since January. 6 have left. We currently have 10 advertised, and we've also taken on 2 apprentices and 1 trainee. So from a council perspective, is that enough information about movements, or which I think that was a question last time. So it's just a bit of an update of where we will break that down further as we go about which areas, which towns, which communities, where that's happening. From that community perspective, the Tree of Knowledge Ball was great fun to go to. There was a lot of our own staff and community were there, which was great. I did put a bit, which I won't sort of talk about too much, the next dot point there about some social media. I take a lot of pride in what our staff do, so it's a bit unfortunate sometimes they take a few hits. Like I said, we can always improve, but I think sometimes taking cheap shots at people is not the way to go. So that's was my comment on that one. I don't think it needs to be out there too much. Like I said, the new street sweepers arrived. That's a good addition. We've got staff being trained on that now. And then we look at our business improvement. We've started down that process. We've done the community care business plan. We're looking with the audit and risk to improve the charter and actually add risk into the finance, which Dan can talk about. We have done, which is looking at all our policies and registers. So there's a lot of work being done in the last couple of years, but I guess what we've identified is that we've still got a fair way to go, and that commitment there is to roll it out. I did put some comments from that first town hall meeting we had with user groups at the rec park, and like I said, next week that user group meeting will take place, and we can get some meaningful discussions about how we resolve that comms between them. I didn't particularly want to, I'll do it through the user group instead of out through emails, because it does tend to go further. This is something the user group can work on. And generally, from my perspective, Director of Works report, that'll come from me as well. Might as well keep doing that while we're on a bit of a roll. So Corporate Services and myself met with TMR and GBA to start to move forward on different projects, such as the Barking Aramac Road, Tid Roads. There was a bit of a stalemate. We've now brought everyone together, including our senior work supervisors. So we've had a number of meetings now where we've actually reset our works programs, reset the reporting, the acquittals, the contracts, and I think we've had quite a positive 2 meetings, and it seems to have the wheels moving again, so I think that's a positive. Obviously with the change in Director of Works, I've assumed that acting engineering role as well until we recruit and replace for that space. Hopefully that's only a short-term movement, but I think Kerry for what he did when he brought here. Wish him well in his future. Generally on that, we've also got another addition that we will talk about what we might, if you want to do the street cleanup now or later.
No, we'll do
Do that later. So we're still quite moving, and there's a lot to do. If I take the opportunity now just to talk about this council, and I'll be conscious I'll keep it short because I can't go on all day, but I think I'd just like to thank this council. So what I've seen since I got here, and staff, I'm talking on behalf of them too, is a real commitment from this council to actually change, to make ourselves transparent, to bring to the forefront the gaps and to actually look for improvement, which is noticeable. You see that regardless of some of the negative feedback in the community, your improvements, whether it's in systems, processes, in your overall way we conduct ourselves. I think the one thing that I've noticed is a lot of work that you guys do that goes unnoticed or is not seen or not commented on. So I can speak firsthand, late night phone calls from everyone, the work that the mayor does out of hours, whether it's in Brisbane, Canberra, or, at any time, as we all do, is a real credit, and it's been a pleasure working with everyone.
Questions for the CEO's report? Or in his absence, the Director of Works? For you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bless. The breeze, what sort of timeline do you think before the purchase of the building, purchase of the land will be able to go ahead there?
Honestly, there is no time frame. It's purely linked to Treasury's approval. As soon as the Treasury gives the approval to buy it, you've already given the approval to spend the money, the CEO can enter into the contract and sign and pay tomorrow. But we are completely at the whim and the mercy of the department, or the Treasury.
Thank you. I wanted that to be said. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some moving parts in it. Until Treasury gives us the approval to buy the land on financial arrangements type 2, we can't move forward on that.
Can't buy a block of land that doesn't exist.
That's right. So as far as there, we can actually get the subdivision. Can't buy block of land that hasn't been subdivided yet. So there's work to be done to make that happen. Equally, the MOU and the financial arrangements that we've got.
We don't need that though.
No, but all those moving parts are part of the big picture. So
We've received from Sunshot SARA's approval, so the subdivision can proceed, but you also want to have the certainty that you can buy it, because part of the condition is that if we don't get the DA, then we've got to revert it back to that's the SARA condition, is that you have to restore it back to one block. So you wouldn't proceed with the physical subdivision and sealing until you know that you've got the permission to buy it, because you can't. Then you've got to pay to do it twice. You've got to pay to subdivide it and then pay to re-amalgamate the lots. So, I mean, they're just process things. They happen on instruction from council or the CEO. But the payment is not a process. That's a political decision in Brisbane. The acquiring of the land, that we can't pay for that or acquire it. So until you can acquire it, you're not going to move towards subdivision. Even though all of the steps have been undertaken, it's been surveyed, we've got development approval from the government, from SARA and our own planners to proceed with the minor change to subdivide, all of those things done. It's the only step that's left there is the sealing of the plan at the top, at the Department of Resources. Once that's done, it can be sold tomorrow. But that's not the hold up. The hold up is getting approval. Could come today. Who knows? We've been waiting months and months and months and months and months.
council's done everything they possibly can do.
The Department of State Development have been very good and worked closely with us. They've just been waiting on information for other things, but in terms of the application sitting in the Treasury, it's been there long as long.
Thank you. Another question, please. Our Director of Works is not anymore as of last Friday, or
He's resigned. Still a couple of weeks on handover. But everything's to me now.
Councillor Peebles? Councillor Gleeson, sorry, have you got more? Councillor.
Mr Mayor, mine was also, clarity around where we are with the Director of Works, but asked and answered.
Councillor Plum?
Just one question. With the new systems coming in, Shane, and you spoke of some of the manual items that had to be done in our finance report. So what's the next system that gets put in place so that will help with that? Like, someone's asked me, what are the systems that are involved with council? And I said, no, I just said, oh, well, 365's just been put in, hasn't it? So what's the system that has to be updated for
So
the financial stuff, not to be manually?
financial stuff and everything's
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah,
We've also got a new one which I like to do with projects and project management. I'll let Dan talk about that. That's going to happen sooner rather than later.
The finance system is the one that we need to update that's tied to a lot of our operations. So at the moment it's used for all our payments, our payment system, our debtors, all our financial management, payroll, animals systems are all run through Practical is the current system. And that's the one that the ERP system's looking to replace.
alright, so what does it get replaced with, like the new system? Is
That's
it
what we're
something-
currently going through
We
now.
haven't
Oh,
made a
I see,
decision.
yeah. and
That
that's
was,
not-
we received a list of 4 or 5,
Yep.
and then their
Oh.
officers are going through that to shortlist that to make the final decision when they sort of try before they buy, get a more detailed presentation.
There's a lot of due diligence going on. Just because it looks good on paper doesn't mean it is. So
Yeah.
we're making sure we don't buy something that doesn't fit.
Yeah, that's all right. I just wondered what was in place to help, but you don't have to manually do orders.
There's a few other things we're putting in. There's a project management system, and which also has an operational plan and corporate plan module to it as well. So that will be not just for the staff to manage their projects, but also for councillors and even the community to be able to look in at certain information and be able to see updates on projects as they progress.
You'll actually be able to get the point we can see a map of the roads with costings, budget, how it's rolling, and showing you that progress on. So there's a little bit of work to get that accurate. So we're doing a bit of work behind the scenes to make sure our costings, our reporting and everything's on targets.
So how long do you think it'll take?
So the project management and operational plan system, the first stage of that's getting implemented later this week. It's all getting the preparation done for next year's budget, effectively an operational plan. So the idea is that that'll be available to the general public, would be post end of financial year. The enterprise systems solution, still bearing on us making a decision, is probably looking around Christmas time before that's live, early new year. So,
It's a couple of songs, that's progressing.
Yeah, it's the data that we've got to go through to make sure it's right when we transition it.
Thank you.
Councillor Rogers.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what's the timeline? Is there an ETA for putting the fire breaks and the new jump and the removal of the existing fence in preparation for the new one?
Yes, sorry, I should have covered that before. Fence tenders are in. We've awarded a tender. Was that 100 and didn't need to come. And we're currently going out to market for the fire breaks and clearing that site. So the tender for the fence is to remove the existing fence and put in the fire break.
Yeah. The, how frequently does council review the audit risk plan? Were there any significant changes or updates during the recent review?
Through Chair, the Audit and Risk Committee on Thursday's got a meeting to review the proposed changes to that policy. Following that advice and discussion at that meeting, it'll be workshop with the next council, and before that policy and that charter is adopted.
We do want risk management to go into that committee though.
There is a few changes suggested there, but having not discussed with the audit committee, the idea is I think there's an opportunity for council to I suppose get a little bit more out of our audit committee and provide them some additional oversight and put some obligation on the staff and management to be providing additional information for that oversight. So not just look at the external and internal audit, but also look at things like our risk, and then as a result of overlooking our risk, then getting updates on how we're progressing with addressing that risk, whether that be in IT, whether that be in in project management, whether that be in our procurement, those sort of things are regularly brought to the Audit and Risk Committee going forward.
And the review of the enterprise risk policy register, but was there any new risks identified?
At the moment, the ones that we've sort of haven't flagged, that's never been closed, is, which we're now working on, is the rec park, the renewable energy zone, and future development. Other ones to throw in there with infrastructure.
And the community care services business plan, what, is there going to be an impact on the delivery of the services with that, do you think?
The plan in itself is part of an audit requirement, but it's also something that's never been done. So we've pulled it all apart to actually get a proper discussion around what it is we deliver, what the true costs are, and what the outcomes we're looking for. So that was the idea of the business plan, which will get presented to the new council as part of their induction as well.
There's also, is there any measures put in place to make sure that the recommendations that from all these reviews we're doing are actually communicated effectively to the stakeholders and even to the broader community, so that just for greater transparency?
We're open for any advice or direction once the new council comes in about how you want to communicate it. Some of the business at council would be business at council, but there's a lot of stuff there that can be open for the community.
Yeah. Thanks, Shane.
Councillor Gleeson.
Mr. Mayor, the street sweeper, when the training is finished, will there be gazetted times like every Tuesday, every Wednesday, that it'll be going to other areas?
Yeah, the plan is to schedule it to hit every area and to make sure we do it at the right times as well. So.
When we were discussing the street sweeper, whatever, 12 months ago, I raised the point about early starting. Is it a council policy here that no noise or little noise in the town area before 7 o'clock, before a certain time? Is there a policy for that?
There's certainly prescriptions that govern building, for example, or you need an operational works permit issued by council to undertake works outside of approved hours.
Because man, it's a noise, it's
the noise ones, that's
pollution.
more
Yeah.
a noise legislative thing.
Yeah.
Local laws will have some of
Is that
it.
a state or local?
One of our local laws.
Mr. Mayor, I think we go off the state noise pollution guidelines.
Ours is just standard.
It's just standard,
Yeah.
not before a certain time on a Sunday.
The reason I asked that question is because the street sweeper starts, the labour force start at 6:37 a.m. and then head down the main street there, and then they've got to duck and dive in and out of motor cars. And the best time to clean, especially the main streets, the best time to clean the main streets is 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I heard a person say, it was only just recently, we were down you go down to Rockhampton, those sort of places there, you got the rubbish trucks going around at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So they can't get in to get them at any other time.
Well, if you want to clean the streets properly with no interference, the best time to do it is when there's nobody there. So I'm just wondering whether there's a policy that we could bring in so that especially the main street, and we've had multiple to do with the water laying in some parts of the main street. And once the bakehouse is open from 6:30, 7 o'clock until 10 o'clock, you can't literally clean the area that those persons are talking about along the main street.
We agree, there'll be a span of hours, and obviously you don't want cars, so you want to do the whole street where we can. So.
Councillor, it's not so much a policy. Council has the right, just like it does with, say, watering hours, to issue itself that permit. So it can apply and issue its own operational works permit to undertake activities outside of prescribed hours. So it wouldn't need to necessarily be a policy change, because if you change the policy to allow, the problem is if you change the policy to allow it to happen, then all of a sudden you can't restrict a building site from commencing work at 3 o'clock in the morning, which no one would want. So, just like council issues itself, Jenny, I'm correct, a water permit to a water outside of those hours, we could issue, it's a different process altogether, it's a different policy, but Shane could issue himself a permit through a process to undertake street sweeping activities. The bigger issue won't be issuing the permit, the bigger issue will be the HR issues associated with people working unsupervised, out of hours. How do you, I'm struggling to keep talking here because there's a camera going and I'm talking about HR and I'm putting words in their mouth, but the minute you start them early, then you run the risk of them wanting potentially overtime, so you've got to negotiate a change of position description, change the hours. The bigger problem is not whether you're allowed to do it or not, it's finding a staff relationship to make that work.
In the end, you'll have a call span of hours and where.
That seriously is the biggest implication. So JJ Richards, for example, would not necessarily have the same structural relationship with picking up the rubbish as council does with their employees for fixed hours.
Just the reason I asked, I know I brought it up before, but it was 30 years ago that the street sweeper in Emerald, they used to start at 3 o'clock in the morning and knock off at 10:30, 11 o'clock, they were finished for the day. And they did a week about, they did a week about, and those gentlemen come into work, or the ladies come into work at that hour of the day, and they knocked off at that hour of the day, and all the streets were clean, and they were unsupervised, they did it themselves, and the job was done.
Yeah, we'll have to do that, but we've also got all our outlying towns, so it's how it all fits.
Thank you. I just want to bring it up for discussion once again.
There's no roadblock stopping it, there's just some hurdles to overcome to get it done. After 6 o'clock it's easy, but it's physically hard.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. And as Shane's saying, in the morning when you want to do alpha, for example, does that mean they start at 1:30 in the morning to start doing it there at 3 o'clock?
No.
Or do they, that's the thing, or do you have a staff member training that per town, do they move down there overnight? That's the little, how do you, I think here's a bigger problem than the other towns, to be fair. You can probably get away with a 6 o'clock start in Alpha, way more than in the main street, way more than you could here.
We will.
Merrimack probably the same, to be fair, Councillor Peebles.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the here, you could probably get away with just being there at a normal time, but here I agree with you, the earlier the start, the better.
It's just, and target the real target, the real
The
target.
main
area
street
that
working
we're
out is the target, Main Street's our showpiece, so it's getting it done. A lot of water run down that street constantly, getting it slimy, so finding the source.
Thank you. I touched on 2 or 3 things there. Thank
Very
you.
good. Any further questions? 3, 6, I think I skipped somebody there, I did. 3, I'm sorry, I flipped 4. Who was I missing? Karen, how could I miss Alpha?
I'll take the report as being read. There's a couple of items there, obviously Jericho ATM, which we know is very topical with the Jericho people. So that is very close to getting those loose ends all tied up and the installation happening at Jericho, which they will be extremely happy about. The Alpha Showgrounds PA system project has been awarded to Macrosphere, and they will be commencing that on the 20th of March with a completion by the 28th of March. And the new light upgrade for the Alpha Showgrounds tenders closed on Friday. I'll be reviewing those tenders and that will be done tomorrow, so we'll know who has been successful in that space. So I'm happy to take questions.
Questions please for Karen, Councillor Peebles.
Mr Mayor, with the C&K Jelly Beans not requesting a new lease, what do we do there?
That's only very recent, so I'm working with them as to when they will be vacating the property and returning it to council.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be, I think it's the 26th of April. that will happen. And in the meantime, I have received the new lease template from King & Co, so we can go to tender for a new operator to take over the daycare in Alpha.
Is there any interest, Karen?
From
Any locals want to take it over, or?
not that I am aware of at this stage. Happy for you to let me know later on if there's people like you.
I've just had people approach me saying that there's a certain number of kids, and I've got an email from one parent down there with the list of kids. So I'll pass that on to you.
Yes, please.
And,
I think it's the approach for me, from what I'm hearing, and Sean, through the chair, if you've heard the same, that it's the hours that's the issue.
It'll depend on what the service provider, which will be a decision for the next council to accept from the tenders, whether you offer limited hours or long hours daycare, because even though there might be a list of kids, not all will qualify for both lists. So it's definitely in the centre and the community's best interest for it to be a long hours daycare centre, not a limited hours, which is why the enrolments are so low, because it's limited hours daycare. The current operator, or the previous operator now, had been operating a limited hours daycare centre. Well, that's why there was only 2 enrolments.
so what's a long hour daycare, Mr. Mead?
Monday to Friday,
Okay.
work hours. Whereas this other one's 3 days a week, so many hours a day.
It's 21 to 23 hours a week is what they had been operating, which isn't suitable to obviously a lot of people, and it's not just council employees that will benefit. It will potentially help attract staff for the hospital and for other businesses within Alpha and Jericho if we can offer the longer hours.
The other issue you've got down there from moving about, Karen, is the kindergarten, and they keep talking about that going to C&K too, but I think you're more likely to get that at your school, and
Which is already.
it's already started, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Rogers, any questions for Karen? No? Sorry, Councillor Gleeson? Nothing. Councillor Hanson?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not wanting to jinx it, but did we have a rough timeline on our ATM? And I won't hold you to it, but yeah.
Through the chair, no, but I am pushing very strongly for a 4 to 6 week turnaround, given the length of time we've been negotiating this overall and landing on where we've landed to proceed with the ATM. I've made it quite clear that we want this turned around extremely quickly. So I've learnt my lesson about committing to a date. But I certainly will be.
Rather bold move that night, one silent night in Jericho for you to do.
Hence why I'm probably, pushing. And look, I have been pushing it the whole time. It's just getting all the loose ends to tie together, which I believe is where we are at now. So once I have that and have it confirmed that it's gone to the deployment team, I will be more aware of a date that it can happen. But yes, no one more than the Jericho community and myself want this completed.
Thank you.
Councillor Plum.
Mr. Mayor, the silhouettes, I'm still back on these silhouettes for our Anzac areas. It would be lovely if it could be in all our communities so that we can have that as a bit of an icon in our towns so that people can see where our Anzac areas are. So,
Councillor Plum, don't disagree with you, but we didn't have the budget. We only developed the budget to review that one in Alpha. So it'll be a budget item if we want to do it moving forward. Put it in the budget for formal. The community request to develop this had come from Alpha, and that was where the budget was allocated. But there is definitely scope, and I'm not sure what's planned for the grant application that's already gone in Aramac, but there's scope for more. It's just there's no budget left for that. I think they're a wonderful little thing. Yeah, they're a silent, relatively low cost, but they're quite unobtrusive, but obviously clear what they're for. I think they're a good thing.
Through the chair, we've had that one turn up that is going to the garden, and I think I've mentioned to Councillor Plum before that we're actually going to paint it black and paint the poppies red, so they're really going to pop at the garden. The fall flags,
Poppies are going to pop.
they are.
Oh
they
my
are.
God almighty, I've heard it all today. That's as bad as Shane's dad jokes.
That's fabulous.
No, actually, it's on par.
The 4 flag poles are up, so they're in place now. So yes, that will. I'm disappointed. I'm sort of disappointed I won't be there Anzac Day to see it all, but I'll be thinking of you over in Scandinavia.
Oh dear.
You have to find an Australian embassy so you can join us.
So just one more thing, with the ATM, was it decided to go inside, outside?
The position.
Yeah, the position
Outside. So
on the front.
yes, so where the previous one was, however, there is a steel plate already been in place, reinforcing the floor, and then with bollards at the front, so and also CCTV to go up, as well as added protection. And there's also, it's called a Sencom lock, so it's a bank grade lock that goes on the ATM as well. So they're going to have to work a lot harder.
Yeah, that's all right, I wasn't sure about the position.
Councillor, please.
With the daycare, the Jolly Band, or the daycare centre.
Yeah, John, that's correct. Yeah, that's right.
Is it council subsidised? It'll be council subsidised with the, you're putting out a tender, you are going to put out a tender for more persons, for other persons to take over. Is it solely council subsidised, or is it the people that pay?
The only council subsidy, councillor, is that we give them free use of the building. Free. Low cost.
At the present lease was, $1 a year.
It's the buildings.
That's all we give them. The actual cost of the centre is maintained by either the client or the client's Centrelink entitlements for daycare, which limited hours daycare doesn't cover, but there is a different arrangement.
So our main subsidy is the building.
Correct.
The building and the upkeep of the building.
Yeah, which has been moderately okay.
And outside and,
And they've raised money as the parent group for substantial elements of the improvements and enhancements to the site, and we at times contributed to that. We cemented a path back there in 2017. We've undertaken a number of improvements there, but they've been largely driven towards things that would improve the asset, irrespective of what its use was. Like a concrete footpath joining the curb to the building is a benefit whether you're running an office out of there or a childcare centre. It's in that vein. The actual fit for purpose childcare centre stuff has predominantly been either centre provided or funded by the parents.
So at the present time, the building is maintained, the lawns and everything, and the garden and everything's maintained by the council.
through the chair, yes, we're mowing the lawns and keeping it up to
Yep.
standard.
And if there's a guttering that needs maintenance, well, we're paying for that like we would as a tenant.
Thank you.
I just don't want anyone to be under any illusion that you're going to get rushed with centres. Like, as I've said ad nauseum, I hope I'm wrong, but I can't see them climbing out of the woodwork to administer this centre on their behalf. It's a tough area, childcare, and this particular setup is in an area where drawing employees is even harder than drawing children. So there's going to be some complications through this process. It will be I would suggest nearly the remainder of this year to hopefully get a solution in place for next year would be the best, probably, that'd be the best case scenario.
We have the housing issues too as well.
Which is linked to your employee issue otherwise, isn't it? Further questions?
I need to move it, please, Mr Mayor.
Oh, my apologies, Debbie. Can I have somebody please move that report be received? Councillor Arthur, seconded. Councillor Peoples, those in favour? Carried. Yes, I reckon I've got that one, but I'm not going to argue. Can I have somebody move Jenny's report be received, please?
You'd missed Aramac, Mr Mayor.
Oh,
I'm not a fan of Mr Mayor.
Missed Alpha to start with, now missed Aramac, we'll skip Barcaldine and on.
All in part at the end, Mr Mayor.
Can I have somebody move? You're a funny man, that is funny, that joke, I'll give you that. Can I have somebody move Aramac Muttawarra District report be received? Councillor Gleeson, seconded. Councillor Plum, those in favour? Carried. Paula.
I'll take it as read, Mr Mayor. I'll just do a quick update on the Aramac campgrounds that got awarded today, so those cement pads will be poured in the next couple of weeks.
John.
I'll just correct you on the Anzac Day, Anzac Memorial Enhancement Program too. That Aramac actually has some money in that.
Oh, did it? Sorry.
Yes, we do.
Oh, that's good. But you did apply for a grant, yes? The community?
Director of Works said he did, Mr Mayor.
But that was not on behalf of council, it was on behalf of the community, or how did that
Our
work?
ourselves.
I'm not sure, Mr Mayor, I haven't
Yeah.
seen the grant application.
Right, okay, fair enough.
But we have enough money to do what we needed to do.
Right.
From council budget. I just wanted to say 3 thank yous. One to council for allowing me to go to the women's conference in Brisbane last week. It was well worth attending. I took one of my staff members from Aramac with me, and yeah, it was a great 2 days of networking and getting to meet everyone and learning about yourself. Also to Barcaldine Hospital, mainly Central West Health. They've done a very good replica of the old Aramac hospital. Although Aramac's, very sad about losing their hospital, I think this replica is awesome and looks really great, and I think the community will love that. I've got it in Aramac now, but we're holding it until the reunion, and so it'll come out with a big bang, hopefully. And just the Queensland Ambulance officers in Aramac as well for the new 3 AED machines they're going to put in the community. Thank you for that.
Excellent. Questions for Paul?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Paula, do you believe the Anzac memorial will be right for Anzac Day? Will they set up or not?
Oh, we weren't planning for Anzac Day, just because we didn't know how long it was going to take to actually build it. But it is nearly built, but the steel structure is built, we're just waiting on the foundations. But we were aiming for the reunion in August to unveil that.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Can I have somebody move Jenny's report be received, please? Councillor Hanson, seconded. Councillor Arthur, all those in favour? 7-0. Jenny.
To you, Mr Mayor, I take that my report has been read, and I will also bring attention to the point, yes, we are doing something in Barcaldine with replicas, some sculptures at the RSL Memorial Cemetery. So they are being cut out. They're just waiting for the welding, and they will be installed for Anzac Day. They will be on either side of the gate. So there was a little bit of funding left over from the Alpha, which we've used to do some replicas, which similar to what's in the window at the RSL. So they're soldiers with Lest We Forget. So worked with the past president, but she's very passionate about the RSL. And going forward, hopefully we'll be able to add to that. So that is our significant area where people are represented. Since I've done my report, the air conditioning in the pool canteen has been completed. And unfortunately, we still receive no tenders for the painting of the pools. We're now just going out. We've found a company that's through another pool provider that isn't in vendor panel, so we're now going out to see if we can get quotes for them to get that work completed. It's been a little bit harder than we thought. So just an update on the rec park. Working with the project manager, and hopefully we should be going out to vendor panel for parts of that work this week. He's just finalising the last scopes to be put up for that. And I will just say a thank you to our carpenter and his apprentice who have been, well, the apprentice carpenter is actually going to be down in Alpha for approximately 3 weeks, and our carpenter went down to help with some works Monday, Tuesday. So I thank them for giving their time to go and assist and learn different things in other areas for the carpenter. And one last thing, we had a call from a representative of Queensland Health wanting to do water testing. Obviously he received a report about some viruses that were going around, and he wanted to do some water testing on our swimming pool and our rec park. We got the results of those just yesterday, and he did compliment our pool lessee on the quality of the water there. There were found no traces of anything in there, and he said to keep up the good work, so that's a very good positive. There probably was some issues found at the rec park, a detection at the rec park, which I won't discuss on screen.
Councillor.
Jenny, can you just give me a refresh on the Barcaldine Rec Park Stage 3 and the project manager's been appointed and what's actually going on there, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the grant funding that was received through the Sport and Rec grant, minor infrastructure program.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the one that I think the Water Sports Association keep asking questions about. That was that 400,000.
Yep, and so we've got concerns that the,
Councillor, just stop. For a
okay,
second.
yep,
Shane referred to this in his report, and that, so that it started that there's issues about costing. Very happy to have a broad conversation when we close the meeting about it, but there are some, if we have go into any more detail about individuals, it could disclose potential budget allocations and pricings to future tenderers.
yep, fine.
There are some issues there that we're intending to talk about. Shane's got a full report here, but if a conversation now could prejudice the tendering process moving forward.
Understand, no problem.
Further questions for Jenny? I just want to know. Yes, Councillor.
Jenny, how are we going with the Drover in the north, in the payments of the Drover? Has that come to anything? The Drover that's been around for a long time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there has been no application for that drover to come back through our area. I believe she's headed south.
Okay. We'll say no more.
Obviously, Councillor, we believe that she's still on our side of the boundary.
Unpaid bills.
Yeah. Sorry, different issue, but is she still in the boundary, inside the boundary?
Only a few days ago, a week ago. I was just between here and Blackhall, just backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards.
Yeah, I know that, but we thought she'd moved south. Is that your RLS report?
I don't think so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, discussions with the neighbouring council, she has made an application to go south from them. She has not come back this way.
Thank you.
Good luck to her.
Good luck, Rob.
Luck to them, I should say. Further question? My comment was just to note that in all RLO's report, district managers, they're battling with a bit of weed stuff at the moment, and it is a topical issue across the council area. We've got coral cactus in the north, we've got Parthenian weed down Craven Road, you've got tiger pear cochineal here, we've got, there's tiger pear, sorry. Maybe a thing to keep an eye on is, have we got a big enough budget for that moving forward, and do we need to even bring in at times a surge mentality where we bring extra staff from other elements of the business or external contractors to work with their direction? It's I feel for those who haven't yet had rain in our council area, but broadly there's been some rain this summer. We were always expecting a significant influx of some degree, and that's now happening, whether it's the one that not commonly mentioned, but everyone else around us is worried about is, I just call it Western Parthenian weed, but it's got another name. Sticky florestina. You know, that's going to be an ongoing issue, but these cactuses, they're a real trick. So once again, no decision needed today, but an operational budget moving forward is for them to actually put their heads together and say, look, if we were to surge twice a year with either our own resources pooled or procuring additional resources, whether it be DCQ have got a spraying unit up the road, like a team of sprayers, they do a commercial business, or you know, other sources of labour. It might be something moving forward to really get their heads together and look at what the complications are around that and what the cost implications of that are, because you know, obviously there'll be a degree of that work required forever, but if there's areas that are starting to get away or could be eliminated quickly, might be something worth the next council's first budget meeting considering.
Cheers, Mayor. Our RLO here did do some work with the Longreach area on that sticky florestina. They must have been given, Longreach must have been given a portion of funding, and when that was exhausted, it was finished. And I think that funding was for that Longreach Barkey Road, and our RLO did work with them on that project. So yeah, they do work together, which is good.
All right, further questions? Project progress report. Councillor Peoples moves, Councillor Plum seconds, those in favour? Carried.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just want to note a few projects that have been completed this month. There's been a couple of completed since the report, as the district managers noted in their reports. There was a few flood damage roads completed, Beaufort Road, Drummond Slopes, Lloyd Jones Weir, Loop Road, Brayside Road, Bloodwood Drive and Sandalwood Drive were all completed for their flood damage works, which is showing some progress there. I'll go through the carry forward projects in a fair bit of detail, as I noted earlier, on where they're at, and the progress generally across most of them is that they are on track to be completed coming this year. The first project there, the sound and video equipment in the chambers here, is just looking to do an upgrade to some of our equipment to simplify its use, and also we're going to take advantage of the budget and look at maybe the hall and the council boardroom as well to get some equipment there. Certainly not looking to spend anywhere near the $100,000 budget now though. The swimming pool upgrade here in Barcaldine, the pump shed and that is nearing completion, and as Jenny pointed out in her district manager report, the painting of the pool will complete that project post the end of the pool season or swimming season. The Alpha Showgrounds upgrades will be completed towards the end of this month largely. There'll be a few funds left over there, largely around the lighting, which will progress in the next month as well. And then the flood cameras, as we noted last meeting, is not proceeding. In the water space, the water mains project there, that's been an ongoing budget carried forward for a number of years, or just used as required. There is some, with the project at the school for the ceiling, for the concreting of the drop-off zone, there is a water main that will be replaced as part of that project. So some of those funds will be used, and that's expected to be the only project for this year. So the remainder of the funds, obviously with council's budget approval, the next council's budget approval will be carried forward.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Didn't we do some water mains work with the Beat Street curve and channeling, or did that go to the project?
That was done prior to the 30 June.
Sorry, good point.
The Case Street bore has been completed. There is some fencing to do around the solar panels. I don't have any additional information on that. And then
It's
the,
not integral to their operation, it's just a cyber
No,
security
it's
thing.
just security.
I've noted the SCADA projects are completed. There is certainly more work. The Director of Works and the Water Coordinator have flagged in that space. But the program of those works has been confirmed as being completed. There'll be some any additional work in that space will now be a new capital works project. The sewage treatment plant and the trickle system are both near completion. I'll take advice from the CEO.
No, not yet.
But the similar sort of project there to just try and close out the current items, and then any further works will be come to council as a new project. In the plant carry forwards project, the only outstanding items there that have not yet been received or delivered is a couple of trucks. They are also accompanied by a water tank and a copper spreader. They're expected to be delivered in April, which will close out that program as well. In the transport space, the Aramac Jericho Road, the Craven Road are both and Craven Road are both waiting final seal. That's expected to be done at the end of this month, so that'll see them completed. The Stagmount Road design is being done for the floodway there, along with two other floodways in this year's program, and they'll all be completed as one project. So that design has commenced in the last couple of weeks. The rural address and signage, there's just a couple of signs that are awaiting delivery. I believe there was a couple of errors or something on some of the initial signs, so they've had to go back to the sign writers to get redone. And once they're delivered, they'll be constructed. And Box Street, the design phase is complete. We're just finalising a traffic management plan for that site, and then the work will commence probably in the next fortnight. In the economy goal, the dip yards, that initial project did come in under budget, and so the officers down there have taken the opportunity to do some additional work to the yards with the remaining budget. So that will be completed by year end. It's just now scheduling in that work and ordering the new material. The only other item there that we haven't talked about today is the public rest areas on Scops Trail. I believe we've found a suitable solution there that is a bit closer to our budget, within our budget. So we'll be commencing. I think we're just discussing timelines of when that can be delivered now on work. So the admin office upgrades, there's no plans at this stage for any renovations or office extensions there. Obviously, the value that will be going against that project. And then the council housing, there is a number of projects in progress that are working through for the expenditure of that budget as well.
Any questions on projects carried forward? I mean, I know the other one that we just skipped over there, but obviously there was a discussion about is the Barkholt Renewable Energy Zone. That's a significant value there, but you know, that's a hell of a piece of string, and that's a carryover project that's been carried over for council's own reasons. Further questions on those carried forward projects?
Mr Mayor, it's just the timelines on that sewage work again, like close to completion's not very accurate, and it's not as if it's sprung up on us. We've known for, 6 to 12 months that we're having problems with the project, but we just seem to be really struggling to get a grasp on it.
So what is the steps forward there as of now, Shane?
At the moment, we're trying to complete what's already been commissioned or what's happening, then let's draw the line in the sand and rescope it.
Because
What does that mean?
So we've got, council, we talked about that other project where we had to bring them back to fix the contractor's errors.
Yep.
And then we've got a couple of sheds to be built, and then we have to rescope because we're a long way off getting it finished.
So will that mean these projects are finished then?
The projects that we've got in the system, because you're only getting piecemeal as it went.
And Mr Mayor, this is a problem for the next council, I guess, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects just in that goal that are over budget by at least 10%. And like, that's chewed up $2 million. So, at some stage, we probably need to sit down and go through those projects. Or the next council need to sit through and go through those projects and see what happened.
So when those two projects, like as of right now, what can happen with them? Anything?
Big Blue tank. The medium in the middle of that wasn't enough water originally, that you had sitting on the ground for a year or so, so we're waiting for that to arrive. The other tank, that the foundations were faulty, had to come back in that space.
So, okay, the trickling filter.
Different filter.
When the medium's installed, will it be activated?
Once it's all connected up, yeah. But there's some additional checks to go with that.
And what do they do?
I'll need the sewage expert to explain it.
So what I'm saying is though, when that trickling filter's commissioned, will it be used? Like, sorry, when it's completed, when the medium turns up, will they commission that straight away?
Once again, I'll need the expert.
Because that's the thing.
The whole idea was to re-scope because you've never been given the full picture.
So, Mr Mayor, can I, whose fault's all this? Why is it all gone wrong?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know whether there's an easy,
There's no
quick
easy answer.
answer to that, but that's what I mean, like
That's the whole.
it's quite literally a problem for the next council to sit down and go through the whole project and say,
Didn't we employ a consultant to come and tell us how to do all this?
We did, yes.
Might need to go in there.
which
You should
would,
be careful where you're going here on camera, but yes, there is. So there is a third-party consultant that was engaged, Water and Carbon. They've designed the project, and then there's our contract engineers who are the project managers underneath them, between them and us, I should say. And then there's underneath Water and Carbon and GBA, there's been a whole host of subcontractors, some local, some not. And the issues are literally at every step of the process. And then council at some stages has just introduced additional requests outside the initial scope. Because it'd be nice to have it.
Before our time.
Without coming to council for approval.
well, Mr. Mayor, that was going to be where my next thing is like, contracts over $200,000 come to us, but it, but like $1 million project or, yeah, what are we
A little
going?
bit less than that.
A
But yes.
$900,000 project, yep, righto, but it can be broken up in parts, and
And that's what happened.
we can spend 1.4 million on it with no
That
real
is-
control and no,
But it's essentially what happened. Every element of that project, apart from one item, got broken into pieces smaller than 200,000. As it would now, as these guys have found.
Reason for re-scoping.
And, sorry, these guys and the soon-to-be former director of works. So the issue has been rectifying the faults, completing the works that are already underway, and then working out how the hell, which is what rescoping means, how the hell we can make it all work, and what more still needs to be done before everything that's there, without any additional work, can be brought to bear. At the end of the day, there still won't be any water, to the best of my knowledge, there still won't be able to use the water for the other element that's not listed there, but it's just as equally wasted, is the reticulation and storage to and at showgrounds. It's just sitting there unused. Yes, councillor.
Can we move to committee, please, Mr Mayor?
For the purposes of.
Well, we're going to talk about commercial business and some, yeah.
Matter that may affect. No,
Still within the contract.
Make me look it up anyway. 254J3G. Councillor Peoples has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried. I'm just meeting open, adjourned for lunch.
If you care.